In my restless dreams, I see that game. Silent Hill 2. I'm very late to the Silent Hill 2 party, mainly because I was a month old when it first came out, and I don't do well with horror at all. My earliest memory of playing a horror game is back in 3rd grade, when my older cousins tricked me into playing Slender the Eight Pages. A lot of you may laugh because Slenderman isn't so scary, but for the rest of elementary school, I could not sleep without the lights on and my door barricaded. Even to this day, I still find myself looking over my shoulder constantly when it's night, and I avoid going near anything that looks remotely scary. I decided to play Silent Hill 2 to be able to take steps towards one day being able to conquer my fear of the dark and horror. After beating Silent Hill 2, instead of coming away happy that I was able to survive a horror game, I could not stop thinking about Silent Hill 2 and how it perfectly understood mental health to the point I, just like the game's main character, feel like I can't escape that foggy town. Silent Hill 2 haunts me. Silent Hill 2 isn't like your average horror game, which typically relies on gore and your classic jump scares. Don't get me wrong, Silent Hill 2 has its fair share of that, but it's a lot more tame. I consider Silent Hill 2 as more of a psychological thriller than a horror, given its focus on the mental and emotional states of its characters, instead of relying on gore and jump scares to make you feel scared. That's not a bad thing at all. If anything, that's what makes it so memorable to me. Silent Hill 2 follows the journey of James Sunderland, who makes his way to the town of Silent Hill after getting a letter from his deceased wife of 3 years, Mary, letting him know that she is waiting for him in their special place. You're probably wondering, why is bro going into such a scary-ass town, believing that somehow his dead wife sent him a letter from the grave? Clearly, something is wrong with James, as no sane person would ever do what he's doing and also have no reaction to these monsters in ruined town. Unlike James, I was shaken to my core by everything the town, no, the game had to offer. What scared me most in Silent Hill 2 was not its deformed monsters or how the town feels devoid of life, but its atmosphere. Silent Hill 2 taps into the fear of the unknown. The fear of the unknown stems from a lack of predictability and control. Silent Hill 2 brings that and then some. You can see this from the very start of the game, as it takes you and James down a very long forest trail to the town of Silent Hill. It sets the tone of the game right away. The further you go, like Dante's journey into the Inferno, the more isolated from the real world you become, and the deeper into hell you go. Once you've arrived at Silent Hill, you are staring at the manifestation of the unknown in the face, a thick fog engulfing the town of Silent Hill. Some may argue that the fog is only there to hide the PS2's weak render distance, so we don't see monsters and buildings loading and popping in. While that may be true, I think you're doing it a huge disservice by looking at it that way. The fog restricts your vision greatly. Unlike fog in real life, the fog feels alive. It is constantly swirling around you. You can't outrun it. It feels like it is closing in on you, making you feel like you can't breathe, making it hard to see monsters or feel safe at all. It's such a great way of naturally adding constant suspense. By restricting your vision greatly, you have to constantly be paying attention to your surroundings. Otherwise, you could risk getting jumped and getting a game over. As someone who is afraid of the dark and being out at night, the fog always kept me on edge, reminding me of that unknown I dread. Silent Hill 2's fog really sells the fact that you are all alone. No one is here to help you, and the only company that you have are your own thoughts. For me, it's more unnerving as it reminds me of my own social anxiety. My entire life, I've been used to worrying about others watching me and judging me for everything that I do. I would find peace and comfort by being all alone in my bubble as it surrounds me, not letting anything in unless I chose to. In Silent Hill 2, the fog is my bubble, not showing the entire cruel world around me, only showing me what I want to see. I could sit in the fog all day and never confront any of the monsters or abandoned buildings, but you can't live your life like that. I found myself even more uncomfortable without the presence of other people in the game. It was as if the game was directly calling out my social anxiety, showing me the easy way out of my problem and asking me, is this truly what you want? There is a saying that the truth can be scary. Facing it head on here, I believe it with all of my heart. Being isolated in my fog bubble, I found myself yearning for any human interaction, making the few encounters with the other characters in the game all the more meaningful. I found myself starting to value my relationships and interactions with others in the real world because of this. Adding to my feelings of truly being isolated was how most of my playtime I was met with complete silence, outside of James' loud and heavy footsteps, until the silence was interrupted by the static coming from James's pocket radio. The bubble I was in was cut into pieces with the amount of tension building from the sound of the static growing louder and getting closer. Anytime your radio goes off, the game is screaming at you that you are in danger. It's even worse when you take into account that you can't see the danger, only that it's nearby, and by the time you realize it, you're already staring the danger right in the face. The radio is a great mechanic and adds tension at all times. Every time you open a door, you are constantly wondering once you load in, will that dreaded static kick in, and if it doesn't, you're safe. Or are you? After the first hour or two of playing, Silent Hill 2 conditions you to associate danger to whether or not the radio goes off. The mad lads at Team Silent knew this all too well, so they start throwing curveballs at the player. There are rooms that seem safe with the radio not going off, but there's a monster waiting to poke its ugly head out at you. Here's a perfect example of how I was conditioned like a sheep.
Do you remember what the interact button is? What the fuck?
If you thought that's the only time the game likes to play with you, if only that was the case. Silent Hill 2's camera feels like an enemy at times, sometimes being fixed at certain angles to hide what's around the corner, and makes the narrow hallways look menacing as hell. Just trying to deal with the camera angles alone is hard enough, then you throw in tank controls, making every encounter feel like I'm fighting for my life. For a 22-year-old game, I was truly immersed, clutching my controller anxiously, struggling to outmaneuver monsters so I didn't waste any of my precious healing items, trying to compose myself before opening a door or turning a dark, scary corner, praying that nothing jumps out at me or I enter a safe room to catch my breath before throwing myself back into the action. Experiencing all of this, I can never see my basement in the dark the same ever again. The more you peel back the layers of Silent Hill 2, if you dig deep enough, just like James, you'll realize you're looking at a reflection of the worst parts of you that are tucked out of sight. We all deal with our own struggles. It's natural that we deal with them internally or avoid them altogether. But Silent Hill 2 isn't forgiving enough to allow James or the player to leave the town without confronting their struggles and problems first. Otherwise, Silent Hill 2 will continue to haunt you in your restless dreams. Thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.